Jeremy Corbyn attended a meeting with other left-wing figures who have created a new political party called Collective. He was also joined by former Unite leader Len McCluskey, Andrew Feinstein, Jamie Driscoll and independent candidates. Key figures in the group said they hoped the party would act as an incubator for future leaders who could replace Corbyn as a figurehead of the left and aim to contest seats at the next general election. At a private meeting on Sunday, where Corbyn gave the opening speech, founders said they would begin drawing up democratic structures for a new party to launch. A source close to Corbyn said his attendance was not an official endorsement and that he had attended the meeting to listen to and share a variety of views about the way forward for the left. Organisers said they hoped that forming a new party would be a way of garnering new support. There will be a new left party that will contest the next election and hopefully be a meaningful counterweight to reform and the right-wing drift of the Labour Party, one said. It is understood not all attenders are in favour of a new left-wing party, including Andrew Feinstein and Jamie Driscoll. It also may not ultimately involve the four independent candidates who won seats at the last general election on a pro-Palestinian platform and who have subsequently formed a parliamentary alliance with Corbyn. Pamela Fitzpatrick, the director of Corbyn's Peace and Justice Project, who will be the movement's director, said, "Now is the time to become an established party." So obviously, it's not confirmed that Jeremy will be involved in this new party, but him being there and addressing those who are does mean there's a possibility. And further evidence that suggests that he could be involved is Pamela Fitzpatrick. She's the director of Corbyn's Peace and Justice Project, and it seems she is the head of this new party. And obviously, when I say head, that's more of the sort of behind the closed doors. Max, I mean, first off, do you think that Jeremy would join this new party? And I suppose my follow-up question is, I mean, what do you make of Collective, which is the new left-wing political party?
So I think there's a good chance that he will join it because he shares a lot of their views. So I do think there's a good possibility that he will. I don't know whether he'll be the leader of it, but he certainly will be a senior figure within that organization. Now, I'm probably going to upset a lot of your viewers here by what I'm going to say next, because I actually think that Jeremy and some of the independent MPs should actually join the Green Party, because I think the Green Party, we were expecting them to do really well at the last election, and they did a lot better than before. But I think a lot of us were hoping that they would pick up a lot more seats, and unfortunately, they're behind Reform UK at the moment. But I think now. Maybe I'm wrong in this approach, but I think a lot of the left-wing parties, MPs, I should say, instead of being in a way out on their own, I think they should join the Green Party, and because a lot of the views they have are shared by the Green Party, and I think I was really hoping that Jeremy would join the Green Party because he could be a huge voice for them. They had their previous MP was a massive voice for the environment, for example. But when she stepped down, I think there's still a bit of a vacuum there. And Jeremy could have filled that vacuum. And I think a lot of the policies that the Green Party support would be ones that Jeremy Corbyn would support as well. So I was a bit disappointed that he didn't join the Green Party when I don't know whether there were discussions taking place between the two. But I would be an advocate for a lot of the left-wing parties because there's strength in numbers. So if you can get behind something like the Green Party, it's already established. You have the same opinions. It shows that the left is left. Or it doesn't show, but it sends a message that the left is less divided. Because I think there is a big problem that we have on the left is that we are very divided and we disagree over too many things and not agree on enough. And this creates too many splits. Now, it'd be great to get some feedback from your viewers on that. But I would be advocating for Jeremy and others, instead of forming their own organization where they won't have as much power. And I mean power as in the media. Because if Jeremy was, for example, to join the Green Party, I think he would be invited more on TV. He would be able to have a bigger voice. While I think the media in particular will sideline him when it comes to new organizations like this. So what do you think about that? Would it be a case of having these MPs and Jeremy join the Green Party to have a stronger voice? or are there too many differences? Maybe I'm doing the interview a bit here instead.
Well, I mean, in the danger of upsetting both of us, upsetting the audience, I agree. Actually, I mean, I think starting a new left-wing political party is a non-starter. I feel as though the left is almost obsessed with new political parties, but the reality is we do live under first past the post, and ultimately this will split the vote. Now, for me, I think, and I agree again, I think the Green Party is the only viable left-wing alternative. They've demonstrated that they can win under first past the post. They got 4 seats at the last election. But how long have they been around? And my fear is that a new left party will split the Green vote and could undermine the work of the Greens. I mean, the Green Party has existed for decades, and only in 2024 they got 4 MPs. I don't think that if Jeremy Corbyn joined this collective, it's very unlikely that they would pull 100% of Green voters. So if you're going to, even if you were to pull 50%, which is impressive, all you're doing is it's an even split, right? That means it's unlikely that the Greens would retain their seats. I also think that you're absolutely right about the media, because the Green Party is an established party, and I think it would be a huge news story if Jeremy joined the Green Party. Now, I've not personally advocated for Jeremy to join the party. I think he's probably, for now, good where he is as an independent and just forming alliances. I mean, he's already got the alliance with the 4 other MPs, the independent MPs. I think doing a unofficial alliance with anyone on policy would be best suited to him. But yeah, my fear is that this would completely undermine the Greens, and of course, we're pretty much aligned on that. And look, there was a reason why hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, who were excited that Jeremy Corbyn was leader of the Labour Party. And the reason is because there was a chance of him winning. So we all knew back then the reality of our voting system. Now, the Greens had a lot of similar policies for years, but they only had 1 seat. So, of course, there wasn't the same level of enthusiasm as there was for Jeremy Corbyn. So, to me, I'm just simply applying the same logic, which is consistent, and I think is only rational to get involved and use your energy if there's an actual vehicle for change. Now, obviously, the Greens won't be in government for the foreseeable future, but they have a path to more MPs. And one day, I think the Greens will have a sizable amount of people in Parliament where they will actually have leverage. So, yeah, for me personally, I don't think I want to see Jeremy join a new party. I think he's better where, him being independent. It's interesting that there were people at this event, Andrew Feinstein, Jamie Driscoll, who said they don't support this. I'm interested that you think he would join Collective. Now, of course, they do align on many political issues, but it took a long time for Jeremy to leave the Labour Party because he's kind of has Labour in his blood. It took him a very long time. So, why do you think, apart from obviously agreeing on a lot of policy, why do you think that Jeremy would make this move and rather actually not stay?
I think it's because you want to be in charge. Like, if you want to be part of something, so an independent MP can achieve like a certain amount in Parliament, but they're extremely restricted. And as I said before, there's strength in numbers. So I would imagine he would join. Now I'm not privy to what he's thinking, but I do think it makes sense for him to be part of something a little bit bigger than himself. Now, whether he would lead it or not is another thing, or he would just be part of it. But being an independent MP, I think it's limited in what he can achieve, and with the media refusing to take him on or interview him or anything, it's with the exception of yourself, for example. But it's very difficult for him to get any traction, to get his message across. One thing is being in the House of Commons, another thing is to have an organization behind you and to have a party behind you. So that was one of the other reasons why I said that he should join the Greens, or in the last election. But I do think maybe eventually, I'm not saying straight away, but I do think eventually he will join something. If it's not this organization, it could be something similar in the future. Because as I said, if you want to have an impact, you need to have a group of people behind you.
Yeah, I mean, we all speculated that the Peace and Justice Project was going to be a political party, and then the Independent Alliance, which was only formed a couple of weeks ago, could be a political party. Now we have this collective. It's so many different groups, and it's this classic left-wing politics. It's kind of, we love to argue amongst ourselves and split. But again, I think, it would be inconsistent to support a new political party when you join the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. And especially under Jeremy Corbyn, there were people in the party who despised him, who didn't like his kind of politics. Yet we all said, well, we're going to join it anyway because we need to win. So I feel like we would contradict ourselves by then going, okay, let's now back something even smaller. Whereas for me, I just want to attach my something to a party that has some sort of electoral value. Now, that's not to say, I mean, Collective could blow up and maybe in 2-3 years they become like Reform, they're polling third, then obviously I would change my mind, but I find that incredibly unlikely. But
I actually think there's going to be a rise in the left-wing vote going forward, because I think it's going to be very difficult for Labour to fix the economy. At the moment, it's flatlined. I think it's going to be very difficult to grow the economy sufficiently to fund public services, and that's what they're talking about. And if they're not able to deliver, then people are going to go elsewhere, and they're going to look for, at by-elections, at the local. I think the local elections are a real opportunity for smaller parties. As you said, first past the post, it's pretty much impossible to win seats there, unless proportional representation comes along. But there's an opportunity for smaller parties, especially at the local elections. I think that's something that we'll need to keep an eye on, because if Labour in government can't achieve something, then people will obviously look for other parties that they feel are more representative of their views.
True, but worryingly, it looks like the right is benefiting the most. I mean, it was interesting when we were going through. I mean, we did the election coverage live, and we were looking at the numbers, and I was quite surprised that in a lot of seats you had a third of the Labour vote go to Reform, which is very, very high, given that the story was, oh, it's just Reform is piggybacking off the Tories, but no, there's disaffected Labour voters who went to Reform. So, absolutely agree that people are. I mean, polling is showing already that people are disaffected with Labour. I mean, I didn't think people were particularly enthusiastic before. It was a very anti-Tory vote. But the polling now, I mean, they're polling at 29%, which is only 4% above the Conservatives. I know it's just one poll, but obviously the decisions Labour has taken in the last 3 months hasn't been particularly popular. I hope there is a resurgence in the left-wing bloc, in the left-wing vote. But again, I don't see how it's.
But we keep sorry to interrupt you, but we keep coming back to the problem of the media, because if you look at who's been interviewed in the media all the time, Farage, Lee Anderson, Richard Tice, they represent a very small section of the vote of Parliament, but they're the loudest voices, and this is a problem for the left. We need to have Green MPs on Question Time. We need to have Green MPs in the media all the time, pushing left-wing policies. And if they're not, they're going to be that vacuum is going to be filled by the likes of Reform UK. I think it's interesting what you said about a lot of the Labour vote went to Reform. I think that's because people are sick and tired of politics. They're, I don't want to use bad language here, but it's a bit like, the two cheeks of the you-know-what, that people are looking at Labour and the Conservatives, and they're not really seeing any difference. And I think what Stormer was saying before the election, we're not going to promise anything big. So a lot of people who are upset, and I think it's easy, I'm not going to say about you, but it's easy for me to fall into the trap that, well, people who vote for Reform, well, they're just racist or they're just bigoted or whatever. But I think a lot of people were just tired of politics. And a bit like the Brexit referendum, people voted against the incumbent. They were like, we're tired of the status quo. We need change. Of course, for me in 2016, what they voted for was not what they thought they would get. And I think when it came to this election, people were just tired of the Tories, and they were tired in some cases of Labour, and not expecting something better. And there was, Farage and others on the horizon saying, look, on their steed, saying, here, I'm going to promise you the sun, moon, and stars. And people latched onto that. I'm just thinking of the constituents of Clacton. Nigel Farage has gone off to some event on the other side of the world today. He's not taking emails from his constituents or listening to their concerns. So I think for the left wing, we need to see a bigger presence in the media. And I think there's things like independent media like yourself here are a great way for left-wing voices to break through.
I love the fact that you bring up the media, because I think that's something that's actually overlooked when we're looking at electoral strategy, when we're looking at different political parties. Because yes, look, reform is consistently platformed, right? The BBC made Nigel Farage's career, and even after 4 MPs, the Greens are still getting sidelined. But they seem to be the only. I mean, they do get invited on TV now and again, right? So if you want to get platform on the media, I agree with you. I think the Greens is the best way forward. If there's another new political party, whether it's Collective or something else, they're less likely to get platformed. They'll say, well, why should we platform you? You have no MPs. You're brand new. When the Green Party have 4 MPs, and they should be on way more than they are, and they make excuses for them. So it's only going to be even worse. So I absolutely agree. The media is the fundamental way of delivering change in this country by reaching voters.
Patreon.com/turnleftmedia. Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn Left.